A new constable in Precinct 2, the county swore in Sheriff's Deputy Leticia Vasquez this afternoon. It comes after a judge ruled in favor of the county, allowing it to replace controversial constable Michelle Barrientes Vela. Eyewitness News reporter Mariah Medina was there for the verdict.
As of today, there is a new Precinct 2 constable in office. Veteran Bexar County Sheriff's Deputy Leticia Vasquez was sworn into her new post as the interim Precinct 2 constable by Judge Peter Sakai today. This after a judge dismissed the lawsuit filed by former constable Michelle Barrientes Vela. Both Vasquez and Precinct 2 Commissioner Justin Rodriguez said the move caught them by surprise. Just last week, Commissioner's Court selected Vasquez as their appointee to the post, but the lawsuit put Vasquez's swearing on hold. The judge is ruling today, allowing her to officially assume office.
It's just real quick. A lot of things happen in a week's time.
As for Vela, who is under investigation by both the FBI and the Texas Rangers, county officials declined to provide an update on that investigation. The now former Constable Vela is expected to vacate her office by 8 a.m. tomorrow. At the Bexar County Courthouse, Mariah Medina, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.